It's the Slam Dunk.
It certainly is. The left. Who needs enemies? When you have friends like the Greens and their non-binary assets, you've got Te Pāti Māori and their completely bonkers separatist nonsense and their misguided defiance. And now out to that poor old Willie Jackson, Labor MP, who's out there reminding people how little Labor did for them. He's now rewriting the election from 18 months ago, telling people that Labor should have taken GST off meat. Because you've got to do your bit at the supermarket and the pump, says Willie. First you've got to do more than that, Willie. But anyway, God, you can drive a bus through that statement. Firstly, Willie points out that Labor deserted working people by doing sweet FA for them, so that's confirmed. Then he goes further than anyone else went in Labor by introducing a new policy and saying the new policy should have happened at the last election. It's almost impossible to achieve, isn't it? And hard to comprehend. It's all very well now, Willie, but where were you when Auckland was in lockdown? People were struggling. Thing is, while Labor never looked at GST off meat, it was GST off fruit and veggies they looked at last election. And the Kiwis resoundingly said, no. It was too last-minute, cynical sort of push to attract voters. No one was fooled by the shallowness of the offering and how disingenuous it all was. I mean, that's how removed Labor got from real voters. You offered them a 15% discount off fruit and veggies, and we said, stick it. We don't believe you. Take a hike, pal. That's what we did. But it's worse than this for Hipkins, who I haven't really touched up yet on this podcast, so today seems a perfect time for it. Here's the truth, Mr. Hipkins, and you're going to hate it. As long as you're leading Labor, you won't get back into office. Auckland hasn't made peace with you. No way. In other words, it won't vote for you. It doesn't want you. It doesn't trust you or Labor, and it doesn't believe in you. It looks at you and says, there, that guy. As long as you're there, you're a reminder of the biggest city in the bad old COVID days. We felt punished and then abandoned by you and your government. The scars run deep. You know, and a day here and a day there in Auckland doesn't cut it, mate. And quite frankly, as a centre-left package, the three of you look like a ticking time bomb and the other two have already imploded. Rather than exploded, they've imploded. The left's never looked as unelectable as they do now. That's your lot, Mr. Hipkins. And for Labor to truly change its spots and ways, it will need a fundamental and seismic shift in its leadership and the policies and who they call their friends. Now, until that happens, New Zealanders won't trust you again. I'm just telling it straight and how it is. As long as Hipkins spearheads the centre-left, it says to voters nothing's changed. For parties to get back into government, they need to have gone through a sort of a rinsing and cleansing process. All parties losing office need to do this sort of thing. You see it over the years. But you, Mr. Hipkins, haven't done it yet. You're the same rabble that was booted out. Nothing's changed. There's been no come to Jesus moment. The most you've said is that you tried too much all at once. That's literally. It's better like saying, what are my weaknesses? I just try and do everything all at once. Labor needs a massive overhaul. You need to somehow again appear attractive to the common worker. When was the last time Labor honestly appealed to ordinary workers? The left's become a bunch of silos dedicated to minority causes that middle New Zealand barely recognises. I run into workers all the time, gruff, hard-working men in factories who look at Labor and shake their head and think you're politically correct nonsense, looking for an audience to relate to. That's what people think. Labor needs an overhaul before a whole pile of disillusioned voters will even look at you again, if they even will. They want to see the necessary changes at the very top. We're not fools. You've barely been out of office 5 minutes and you think that you deserve to be back there now? That's delusional. For as average as Luxon is, you've done nothing to show us that you deserve to be back. You claim this government's muddled in its response to the Trump tariff regime. But check out what's on your plate. The Greens are a right mess and they're your first choice. They're your first choice friends. Now, God defend New Zealand if that's the case. Next cab's Te Pāti Māori, who have gone so separatist they don't even abide by Parliament's rules anymore. How on earth can you work with such a far-flung disruption group? There's nothing constructive, very little that attracts middle New Zealand to those parties. So it's left to you, and you've been rejected once by the electorate, and you've made no changes expecting to get a different result with the same team. It's not how it works, Chris. Let's look at your record. Putting to one side the parties that you'd rely on. We've spoken about those. It's a three-headed hyena at best. Back to your record. Auckland wants you gone. They won't vote Labor. Look what they did last election. Boy, they walked away from you. So that COVID hangover remains. We feel burnt, ignored, not listened to, and while I'm at it, you left us to our own devices and then opened the gates and flooded the city with far too many people from all over the world without building bigger schools and roads and infrastructure that we so desperately needed. You spent millions and millions on reports and consultants and restructures and little on what we really needed. You were captured by your Māori caucus and you failed to take New Zealanders with you. You said we were front of the queue for the vaccine when we were close on last. You misled us to look good, and now that's on you. So it's not looking too good for you right now, is it? Meanwhile, what does Labor stand for? Well, would you cancel the fast-track stuff? Would you spend like a drunken sailor again? Would you or would you not bring in a capital gains tax? You've had more positions on that than the Kama Sutra. And are you a do-nothing centrist? or an old-school Labour tax and spend socialist? Who's the real Chris Hipkins? What do you stand for? Do you stand for much or do you stand for nothing at all but office itself? All I know is you represent another time in politics, largely forgettable. And for Labour to have a chance, surely you've got to sacrifice yourself and somehow make people look away from the left-wing train wreck over there. Right now, the polls are only good for Hipkins because the country sees Luxon as a corporate suckhole and largely empathy-free and is out of touch with the pains and trials and tribulations of the West Auckland solo dad driving a truck for a living with access to his kids 3 days a fortnight. Luxon wouldn't know what to say to the guy over an organic pineapple juice. And there's your first problem. It's an organic pineapple juice. But the thing is, that guy has still not got over Labour's time in office. The single dad. The mere sight of Hipkins yapping on is like a reminder that your first mother-in-law is coming to stay again. And this time it's for 6 weeks. Now, people can tick Labour now in a meaningless poll, knowing it doesn't really matter. So they can tick Hipkins and say, give Luxon a bit of a shot up the arse and say, here we go, mate, here's the frightener for you, here's a wake-up call. But come the only poll that matters, and Labour will find trust is still a major issue. Hipkins can prance around, claiming this government is all at sea on Trump's tariffs, but Winston, by all accounts, nailed it in Washington. And seriously, who would you want in Washington? Winston Peters or Nanaia Mahuta as our Foreign Minister? Who do you think the Yanks consider the best person for the job is when they go and meet them? Seriously, Nanaia Mahuta or Winston Peters? Hipkins and his Trainwreck trio are seriously derailed and going nowhere fast. They look a million miles away from government to me, and at least 2 of the 3 parties are so focused on themselves and their grievances and their identity and sexuality, they have largely been detained by a full-length mirror. And I can't recall the last time those parties did something to help out the average Kiwi and talk about somebody else but themselves. They're a bunch of self-styled egos looking for the next cause in which they can grandstand in front of. They have so lost their way, they appear to have forgotten who put them there and why they were put there. I think it's a disgrace.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.